no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm LA City Councilman Curran Price, inviting you to join us on Saturday, June the 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. as we cut the ribbon on the brand new Enel Woods Park at 8703 South McKinley Avenue. Thanks to a generous donation from Heal the Bay, the park features smart irrigation, stormwater capture systems, and space for local wildlife to thrive. And we've built a walking trail, picnic areas, native landscaping, and quiet spaces for families to gather, relax, and connect. This is part of a much larger effort to expand green spaces across South LA with 3 new parks in the works, a first-of-its-kind community center coming soon, and plans to connect it all through the South LA Greenway. So mark your calendar for Saturday, June 14th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and come celebrate a greener, stronger South LA at Enel Woods Park. I'm also pleased to sponsor the Climate Justice plus Black Health Symposium, moderated by Tavis Smiley, live on C-SPAN, Wednesday, June the 18th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Just a reminder to sign up right away at the KBLA1580.com website to join me, Mayor Karen Bass, Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager Dove, Tennessee State Representative Justin Pearson, Dr. Cornel West, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., the Sierra Club's Ben Jealous, and other black influencers in the climate and health fields as we continue to amplify the connection between climate and poor health outcomes for our people. Thank you for listening. I'm Councilman Curran Price.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space. And when you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much.
I'm Tavis, Smiley. Delighted to have you with us in this hour of our program, and I've been looking forward to this particular conversation. In this hour, a dialogue with Andrew Goldberg and Eric Ward about their new documentary, White with Fear, which exposes the decades-long war by the conservative political machine to amass power, exploit black people, and stoke narratives of white victimization. Before I jump straight away into this conversation with Andrew and Eric, first, the trailer for White with Fear.
Black Lives Matter is a Marxist organization.
How many innocent Americans have these people hurt?
Fear is the best motivator.
When Mexico sends its people
invading, they're murdering, they're raping.
How many moms are grieving because of our sanctuary cities?
You don't have to talk about politics, you have to talk about how the brain of a human works.
Critical race theory is poison.
These people hate white people.
There is now a white fear industrial complex.
Mexican criminals, Black Lives Matter terrorists,
radical Islamic terrorism.
Where many people get very rich and very powerful by telling white America that they are under constant assault.
They want to steal your liberty, your freedom.
I want surveillance of certain mosques.
This is strategic racism.
We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob.
Tapping into white grievance and anxiety.
I mean, you're just overwhelmed by the lies.
Chaos in the streets, in the schools.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
If you put out information and you have force multipliers that just drive it, people will start to absorb it themselves.
This country is being invaded.
When you're scared, you fight back.
We want our country back!
White supremacist protests turned violent.
Panic in El Paso this morning.
Motivated by anti-immigrant hatred.
13 people were shot, 10 of them killed.
He specifically targeted black people.
We're under fire. We're under fire.
Andrew Goldberg, good to have you on this program. How are you today, sir?
I'm well. Thank you very much for having me.
It's my honor. Eric Ward, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. It's an honor to be with you and sit with you today.
No, it's my delight to have you both on. I love the backstory. This audience knows how I do it. Let me start with the backstory of how this project came to be. Tell me about the genesis of it, and we'll jump from there. Andrew, you first.
Well, I had originally started this project in the wake of the George Floyd murder and conversations around Black Lives Matter. I saw that America was more and more willing to have a conversation about race and about white involvement. There was a certain open-mindedness that was emerging. It didn't get as far as we would have liked, but it made some progress. The trouble was that, and we wanted to make a film about what does it mean to be white? What is whiteness? What is this concept that we'd spoken about so much? And we realized it was just too big. It was too daunting. Nobody could agree. But one thing that I did find that everyone agreed with who works in the space was that white people are being manipulated and have been for a long time. And that this manipulation had terrible outcomes, and that ultimately it led to not only dividing the nation, but just a horror show of violence. And that was why we set out to make the film basically about how white people are manipulated and their fears are exploited in the worst possible ways. And that's how we came up with it.
This question, Andrew, before I go to Eric here, this question, Andrew, is given what you just said, this question is somewhat tongue-in-cheek. You'll take my point. But given that there are those whose voices we heard in that trailer who believe that the white race is the superior race, how can those who are members of the, air quote, superior race be so badly manipulated, to use your word?
I don't. First of all, I mean, a lot of white people certainly think they're superior, but that doesn't make them immune from being able to be exploited and manipulated. I mean, the greatest story in global history of the people that thought they were the master race, the Germans, were the most manipulated population by their leadership. Certainly, large portions of them were. So, large portions of them were also quite complicit and interested in what they did. But that being said, I mean, I think that thinking you're special doesn't mean you're unable to be taken advantage of, and that's what we've seen here.
Yeah. So Eric, you heard Andrew say a moment ago that this project started around or after the death of George Floyd, now 5 years ago, because it seemed underscore the word seemed. It seemed that we were in a moment where the country was more willing to have a conversation about race. I'm not so sure that was sustained for any particular length of time. What's your read of that reality, Eric Ward?
Absolutely. I mean, Andrew approached me about his idea. He wanted to tell a story on the history of whiteness and the concept. The murder of George Floyd happens, as you know, Tavis. We see some of the largest mobilizations, civil rights mobilizations in the history of the United States. These protests are actually some of the most nonviolent protests that take place in the history of the United States. But that is not what we were seeing on the media. What we're seeing on the news every night was violence, and it caught Andrew's attention. There was something else going on here. Armed white people standing off against peaceful protesters, right-wing paramilitaries being fed and encouraged by the sitting president of the United States. And Andrew began to craft a different story. We looked at Black Lives Matter, but we began to unpack a history of manipulation. And the truth is this: fear has always been present in America, but it's how we respond to that fear that defines us. The truth is, as Andrew said, many white Americans have been sold a story that equality for others somehow means loss for them. The truth at the end of the day was that the Black Lives Matters mobilizations were not a failure. It was that it met a quiet background machine that uses these moments to exert more control. The fear we're seeing isn't about rights. It's about control.
Okay. I love that. I love the frame that you're putting this in. It's not about rights. It's about control. We're going to spend the rest of the hour delving into this history of manipulation. As both Andrew and Eric put it, they are the documentarians behind the new project called White with Fear, which exposes, again, this decades-long war by this conservative political machine, as I said earlier, to amass power, to really exploit black folk. And stoke this narrative of white victimization. Going to be a great hour when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Protect your home and auto with a bundle from Progressive so you can stop worrying about them and invent new things to worry about, like snakes in your bedroom. Sure, that sounds incredibly irrational, but now that we've mentioned it, you are a little worried. The odds of one snake, let alone snakes plural, are so slim. But you might want to check. Oh, you're not near your bedroom. Guess you'll just have to sit there and worry about it. So let Progressive protect your home and auto, because you've got enough to worry about. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
Wow, you look amazing. What have you been doing?
I'm sure you've heard of Ozempic, Wegovy, and the other GLP-1 medications, right? Well, I found this great company called Zelfie. If you qualify, their providers can prescribe medications like Ozempic and Wegovy and other GLP-1 medications that are 80 to 90% less expensive, all 100% online.
I can get GLP-1 medications for 80 to 90% less and do it all online? No doctor's office or pharmacy?
Yes, Zelfie can provide semaglutide or tirzepatide, the active ingredients in Ozempic and other expensive GLP-1s, but for 80 to 90% less and shipped directly to your door.
How do I get started with Zelfie?
Just send them a text.
Text SKINNY to 323232 to get started today with Zelfie. Get the same active ingredients in Wegovy or Ozempic, but for 80 to 90% less and 100% online. Don't wait. Text SKINNY to 323232 right now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text SKINNY to 323232. That's SKINNY to 323232. SKINNY to 323232.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Andrew Goldberg, and Eric Ward, who are the filmmakers behind the new documentary White with Fear. Honored to have them on this program in this hour. Eric, you set me up for this nicely, so let me come right back to you and have you unpack this a bit more. We've got the rest of the hour. We got time, so stretch out, if you will. You mentioned that this history of manipulation of white folk in this country has not really been so much about rights, but about control. Tell me more.
Absolutely. One of the most important things with White with Fear and how the documentary and the story unfolds is it shows that whether we're talking about Black Lives Matters or the aftermath, the targeting of Chinese Americans after COVID, the manipulation, scapegoating of immigrants, the pushback against Muslims and Arabs in the wake of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, what we learn is that these hatreds don't operate separately. They are reinforcing one another. Tavis. Anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-Blackness are all part of the same operating system, a political system that seeks to manipulate people's fears in order to control. They are the logic of exclusion dressed up in different costumes. When someone believes Jews are secretly controlling society, that Muslims are inherently violent, or that Black people are naturally dangerous, those aren't just isolated prejudices. They're tools that are being used right now by the Republican Party in this country that has been completely captured by MAGA to pit Americans against each other. They are tools to keep us fighting for scraps in the moment of deep inequality, while the real power brokers walk away untouched. What's powerful about this film, and what Andrew brings to the table, and our co-filmmaker Diana, is that you don't hear this from voices like me. You are hearing the story unfold from those who actually set the stage and over decades. It's not a lecture. It shows. It lets you witness how these narratives creep into conversation, into the media, into daily life. And there's a message here that if we don't begin to call out this manipulation over and over, if we don't name it for what it is, we end up absorbing it. And when I say we, I mean all of us, not just white Americans, even when we think we're resisting it. It is a film that tells us at the end of the day, stop pretending that our experiences are the same, but also recognize that the system is benefited. A system of exploitation and exclusion called white supremacy is benefiting from keeping us apart. We're just strongest when we stand together, and we can stand together when we realize we're all being manipulated.
Yeah. So Andrew, you heard Eric response to my question. Eric's response, I should say, and he gives me a more contemporary, which is what I asked for, a more contemporary read on this manipulation of our white brothers and sisters. I want to come to you now to ask you to tell me a bit more about the history, the backstory of this manipulation, Andrew.
Well, I want you to imagine for a minute that a candidate comes along who is a sort of a regular fellow, and he runs as a pretty solid Democrat, and somehow or another he manages to flip the most 7 red MAGA states in America to Democrat. I want you to picture that happening. It's almost inconceivable that a Democrat could run right now, some, follower of Joe Biden, who could get, Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, right? You get the idea.
Sure.
It would never have heard of.
Yep.
But I want you to go back in time now to the mid-1960s when Barry Goldwater ran for president. Barry Goldwater runs for president as a Republican, okay? And at that time, the parties were different on race. The Democratic Party was the party that was more problematic on race, and the Republican Party was a little bit better on race back at this time in the 1960s. They've since sort of flipped. So Barry Goldwater runs, and he decides, as a Republican, that he's going to do something about race that's a little bit dangerous. He's going to say minorities run this country and the civil rights movement is bad. Okay, let's go through that again. He runs for president saying that minorities run the country, right? That's a racist thing to say, and that the civil rights movement is a bad idea. And what he does is he takes 7, I believe it's 7, deeply Southern states that were all Democratic states, and he flips them to Republican. He does something that was inconceivable. But what did that teach the Republican Party? It taught them that if you appeal to white people on the basis of racial fear-mongering, they will go so far as to switch their political party. Now, this is a radical idea, and it works. Who follows in the footsteps of this? Richard Nixon. And Richard Nixon learns in 1968 when he runs that if he leans hard into this idea, if he leans hard into the idea that scaring white people about people of color can win elections, and he does. He runs on this campaign of law and order, which is now the basis of why you see so many African Americans in prison right now. Scare the heck out of white people. Black people are criminals and they're going to come get you. But here's the clever part. You never say race out loud. You never say anything racist. Nixon doesn't walk around saying it out loud. Nixon just does it by using the word crime. Crime, 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 crime. Can't stop talking about it. It's almost an obsession. And white America responds. And this has become central to the Republican Party's effort to win white voters. No Democratic candidate since 1964 has won the majority of the white vote in this country. I'm quoting now from the film. Not Barack Obama, not Joe Biden, not Bill Clinton, not Jimmy Carter. No Democratic candidate for president has won the majority of the white vote because American electoral politics, historically, first and foremost, is about racial resentment. And that is a terrifying thing that we all act like is the elephant in the room, and we never address it head on, and that's what our film seeks to do.
How do you read, Andrew, that we find ourselves, I'm going to follow you as I do all of my guests. You set the table and I'll just follow you. Set the path, I should say. How do you read that we are in this moment once again? You laid that out brilliantly about the Barry Goldwater era. How do you read that we are once again in a moment, in an era where there are many fellow citizens who also believe that the civil rights era was bad, not America's finest moment, and the evidence of that is all around. I don't need to lay out all the evidence. You see it. I got a bright audience. They see it every day. But there are those who are rethinking what the civil rights era was and what it meant to this country in real time. How do you read that, Andrew?
I think there's two parts to it. I mean, on the one hand, I think that there's a baseline racism that exists in huge parts of the white community. And I'm talking about an old school traditional dislike of people of color, that exists in huge parts of the white community and has for years. And that we have acted as if it has gone away. At least the white community acts as if it isn't there. Even though it exists within people, they will look you in the eye and say, I'm colorblind, which is a problematic phrase in and of itself.
Yep.
I'm not racist. These, you know the phrases, some of my best friends are black. You've heard all these ridiculous lines. But what I think has happened is that ugliness within so many of us, and we all have some of it, and even good, hard, well-meaning liberals have quite a bit of it too, has been activated. There has been a pouring of Miracle-Gro, not even a pouring, a giant watering of pouring Miracle-Gro and fertilizer on everyone's racism in the last 10 or 15 years, as we've seen the Republican Party re-engage with a lot of this stuff. And it's really, really upsetting and concerning, and it brings an enormous amount of racism out of people. The other part is, I think that the progress that we've made with civil rights has led a lot of people to believe that the problem is no longer there. You can look on TV and see some degree of African American success if you're a white American, and you can then conclude, oh, I see Denzel Washington, therefore no black people have problems. The cognitive dissonance is fascinating to me about people's conclusions about how the overwhelming majority of African Americans in this country must be doing, because the blacks around them, or the blacks that they see, are doing well. That isn't the case. There's huge disparities in sentencing, in earnings, in hirings, in discrimination, and yet somehow or another people are oblivious to that. But the progress that we've made leads people to believe we've made a whole lot more progress than we have. So you couple you take an American white person who doesn't understand how little progress we've actually made, even though we've made some progress, they think we've made much more. And then you add to that the fact that we have a gigantic media machine which is pouring fertilizer on their pre-existing racist ideas. And you end up with a combustible cocktail, which brings us to where we are now, which brings us to, a more divided country than ever before. And the last part I'll just point out is that it's big business to do this. Dividing America now, people are recognizing, is a billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry. Fox News is more divisive than it's ever been and getting worse. And, you see now more and more right-wing media organizations popping up, bloggers and podcasts, and it becomes overwhelming. As Hillary Clinton says in the film, it's like a fire hose. You're overwhelmed with the lies. And that's a terrifying thing. I mean, you listen to this stuff long enough, you start to believe it. And that's the scary part.
So I want to go to Eric in a second here, but Andrew, you said something I want to get you to follow up on, and I want Eric to respond to the same questions. Let me start with you first, Andrew, since you put me in this frame, and then I want to hear Eric's point of view on this as well. So I take your point that our electoral system and these elections always seem to be in some way about racial resentment. Of course, that is a damning indictment of the country, and there are a whole lot of white people who don't want to ever hear you say something like that again. That our elections are about racial resentment, no matter how true it may be. That's just not the frame that the good white folk want to be in when we're talking about this country, its history, its present, and its future. But while you were talking, it's not even just the good white folk who feel that way. My mind went immediately, for some reason, probably because I was reading an article about her earlier this morning and whether she's going to run for governor of California. But my mind went straight to Kamala Harris, former vice president and perhaps former presidential candidate and perhaps future candidate for governor here in California, where I sit. But you recall when Kamala was vice president, and a whole lot of us were just disappointed in her for saying this. There are any number of ways she could have answered this, but she went for the okie doke. But even Kamala Harris said as vice president, when pressed, that America is not a racist country. That's Kamala Harris, the first black vice president, saying that America is not a racist country. Now, a bunch of black folk forgot about that comment and voted for her anyway when she ran. I didn't forget about that, and that's why I'm raising it right now. So again, it's not just the good white people who don't want you to refer to the racial resentment in our electoral politics, but Kamala Harris herself went on the record as a black woman saying that America is not a racist country. I've had this debate with many of my friends. I ain't stuck on stupid. I understand that there are concessions that one makes when one wants to be elected to high office. I get that. But I also make a distinction between the concessions one has to make to get elected and just flat out lying, just flat out not telling the truth. And Kamala just lied. It's just not true, Kamala. I'm sorry, with all due respect. It's just not true. But even some of us get pulled in to advancing that particular narrative. Andrew, your response first, then I want to hear what Eric has to say about it.
Look, I mean, Kamala ran to the best of her ability. It's clear now that she made, a good number of mistakes in her political efforts. I think it's very dangerous for a woman in a situation like that to say that America is a racist country. She's trying to pull from the middle.
Got it.
So what does she do? She reaches for the easiest and most obvious answer. I think that if you're listen, I've always pointed out, since I'm white, I can't speak to the black lived experience.
Sure.
But what I would gather is that if a black person heard her say that, it could be a hurtful comment to deny that people are experiencing this kind of racism every day in a major way. America is not a racist country compared to the way it was in 1940, but America is a racist country by all these benchmarks and metrics that we measure. It's a very hard sort of thing to do, and she chooses a political answer. But for what it's worth, she's wrong. America is a profoundly racist country. And the trouble is that, it isn't that racism is the only thing. I mean, there's a ton of things that go into one's decision and one's calculus. But the part of it now is that a lot of us make racial votes without recognizing it. I always use this phrase, thinking about some historical moments. I'm not talking about crime, blacks. I'm talking about crime. I'm not talking about Muslims. I'm talking about terrorism. I'm not talking about Hispanics. I'm talking about immigration. All these words that we use now allow us to feel as if we're not doing anything racist. And yet what we're doing is racist in its action, whether or not it's racist in its intent. And frankly, half the time it's racist in its intent anyway, and many of us are in denial of that. There's no way to remove that from the calculus. So I don't want to go on too long, but so in that regard, I just do think she's just wrong.
Yeah.
And she made a political decision, and it was a calculus, and I can't answer about its effectiveness.
No, it was calculus, no question about it, and it's a political decision, as you mentioned, and she went there, and that's her business. But I didn't forget that, and I don't think everybody else forgot it. And so again, it's not just the good white folk. Sometimes there are black folk who, for political convenience, will buy into this lie and extend this narrative, and I find that troubling. When we come forward, I want to give Eric Ward an opportunity, as I said, to respond to that. Wouldn't be fair to do that with 30 seconds to go. So Eric, I'll let you unpack that and a great deal more to talk about. I'm delighted to have these filmmakers on, Andrew Goldberg and Eric Ward. Their new project is called White with Fear. More about it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is celebrating Illinois' 7th straight balanced budget, a $55 billion plan with new taxes on tobacco, vaping, and sports betting.
Unlike the federal government, we are balancing our budget for the benefit of your families, while Trump spends wildly to benefit his family and their Doge Bro friends.
He says it helps working families more than Trump-era federal cuts. 11 people were stabbed Sunday night at the Union Gospel Mission in Salem, Oregon. Police say the victims were taken to Salem Health with various injuries. A male suspect is in custody, but no motive has been released. And Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial resumes today in New York. His lawyers continue cross-examining a former assistant under the alias Mia, who says Combs raped and abused her. A man by the name of Enrique Santos is expected to testify next. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
pan comido, or a piece of cake, no matter how you say it, you save at cheapoair.com/ES. The deals are fully translated in Spanish, so all you've got to do is scroll and save, with deals on up to 500 airlines worldwide. cheapoair.com/ES.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A tough day for LA's major sports teams on Sunday. The only team to get a win was UCLA's baseball team. They beat UC Irvine 8-5 in the NCAA baseball tournament. UCLA advances to the Super Regional. They're only 2 wins away from the World Series in Omaha. UCLA's women's softball team was eliminated Sunday from the World Series in Oklahoma City. They lost to Tennessee 5-4 on a walk-off single in the 9th inning. UCLA finished an impressive season at 55-13. The LA Sparks lost at home to Phoenix 85-80. Third straight loss for the Sparks in the WNBA. The Dodgers and Angels wrapped up the weekend with losses. The Yankees beat the Dodgers 7-3 to avoid a sweep. The Dodgers outscored the Yankees 29-14 in their 3-game series. The Angels fell 6 games below 500 after losing 4-2 at Cleveland. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you sick of drying, chlorinated water in your home? At LifeSource, they believe your health, your skin, and your hair deserve better. Enjoy delicious, clean water from every tap with a LifeSource water system. Call 1-800-WATER-99 or visit lifesourcewater.com.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint!
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again! Holla!
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God!
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on! On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DePrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
Love you. Love you.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Andrew Goldberg and Eric Ward. In case you have just tuned in, we are delighted to have these two brothers on the program as we talk about their new documentary called White with Fear, which exposes, once again, the decades-long war by this conservative political machine to amass power, exploit African Americans, and stoke these narratives of white victimization. We've been talking in this hour about the history of white manipulation and exploitation in this country, and again, delighted to be in conversation with Andrew and Eric. Moments ago, I asked Andrew how he read even Kamala Harris, suggesting that America is not a racist country while she was vice president, and he went in a beautiful sort of way. We were talking here during the break about the variety of ways that Kamala Harris could have answered that question when she was asked directly whether America is a racist country. There's so many ways to answer it. We were just, for Raji and Miles, my team here, Andrew and Eric, were just talking about all the different ways that Kamala could have answered that question. I mean, there's so many ways, but she could have gone right. She could have gone behind the founders. I mean, there's a reason the phrase "a more perfect union" exists. Even the founders understood that this country was not perfect at its founding, at its establishment. How do you become a more perfect union if you're already perfect? So clearly there are mistakes, there are ebbs and flows, there are fits and starts. There are so many ways that she could have even hid behind that phrase. That, you can't, anybody that denies that America has had racist strains in its history is just not acknowledging the truth. She didn't have to just go all in and just say America is not a racist country. So I hear Andrew's point, Eric, that, it's political calculus. She took the easy way out. She wanted, she obviously is an elected official. She wanted to run for president. Eventually she did. But there's so many other ways she could have handled that question. What say you, Eric, about what Andrew and I were just talking about?
Yes, I think we have to understand that race, or in particular racism in America, is the paper on which most social and economic issues that impact America is written. It's not merely one item on a laundry list. It is that actual paper, and it's important for us to acknowledge it and move through that lens of racism. Look, racism doesn't make us all Klans people. It just makes us part of a legacy. And I think when I hear people say we don't live in a racist society, we're hearing two different things. Mm-hmm. One is just pure denial, or we're hearing an aspiration, that idea of what you said of what a more perfect union could look like. Look, I grew up in Southern California at the point where it was desegregating the public schools. And I know what that meant to have to navigate two worlds as a bused a child, and to understand what it means to be Black, which is often to have choiceless choices. There is no right answer that a Black American can give to that question that will satisfy, that will be perfectly honest. But we have to strive to build our muscles to speak about it. But I think it points to one of the lesser known pressures, right? Mm-hmm. One of the essential dynamics around White with Fear, right? And it is this concept coined by a political scientist in 1969. His name was Donald Warren. I think he's never gotten his due, but he coined a term called Middle American Radicals. And he did this to describe what appears in our film: disaffected white middle class, angry at government for helping others while they feel left behind. And we saw historically how George Wallace, Andrew outlined how he rode this sentiment to national fame, winning millions of votes in the late 60s on a platform that fused racial resentment with populist economic anger. We have watched that. We can fast forward to the Tea Party, and you see the continuation of that strategy. And we watched it then play out under the formation of Trumpism. Look, I'm the first to say Elections in this country are not just about policies or party lines. They are referendums on who gets to belong in America. And since the civil rights movement, we have seen a calculated backlash because of the success of the civil rights movement to stoke white racial resentment, turning fear into political weapon, from Nixon's Southern strategy to Reagan's welfare queen narrative, the backlash against Black Lives Matters. The playbook remains the same. It's not always Black folks who are getting targeted, but the playbook is the same. Exploit racial anxieties to mobilize voters. And that leaves Black electeds in a very sticky place. How do they begin to intervene, to speak and to move, not to just abandon these middle American radicals to the white nationalists who seek to exploit them, but how do you lean in and against heavy dog whistles and coded language? Politicians manipulate racial fear, but they are harming communities of color.
Yeah.
And we need elected officials who know how to counter that and to speak to a narrative about who we want to be and how we get there.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I just don't think the answer is to lean into the lie. That's not the way to get there. You don't lean into the lie.
Can't believe the lie.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's my critique of not just Kamala Harris on the left. Same critique of Tim Scott on the right. I'm not beating up on Kamala. I mean, it happens the Black politicians. Period. You saw Tim Scott just go all in at the Republican convention last year. America's not a racist country, and they applauded like crazy. He went all in. So Tim Scott on your right, Kamala Harris on your left. Black politicians, as Eric said, have to do a better job of just not leaning into that lie and finding a way to nuance whatever their response is going to be to these questions about whether or not America is in fact a racist country. I digress for now. I want to go back to something that both Eric and Andrew have spoken to in the last few minutes here, and that is this notion that the Democratic Party ain't won the white vote since God knows when. And Andrew unpacked that quite brilliantly earlier. I don't mean to make either of you political, but where this issue, given that these elections, as Andrew put it, so often are about racial resentment. Eric put it, in his own words, but they're both on the same page in this regard. Obviously, as the filmmakers behind this new project called White with Fear. So again, I'm not trying to make either of you political, but I am curious, given that the Democratic Party has not won the white vote since forever, whether or not in this moment, given the way race shows up in these elections, whether or not that will ever change. I want to go to you first, Eric, because you talked a moment ago about these disaffected white voters, this disaffected white working class. So is there anything in the foreseeable future that you could imagine that might change the reality for Democrats, again, given that they have not won the white vote since the 60s?
Yes, I mean, something can appear for the Democratic Party, but the Democratic Party needs to see it as important. And what it needs to see as important is that it's time to stop running from the fear scammers and to really put energy and resources in consolidating what is a broad multiracial coalition that is being pitted against one another and pulled apart. Here's the honest truth. Barack Obama, for my critiques and support at times, show the Democratic Party the coalition that can be formed. The majority of Americans, despite the fear scammers and those they are manipulating, seek and aspire to live in an inclusive, multiracial democracy, free from fear, free from bigotry. That is consistent in almost nearly every poll. Now, it's not the majority of white folks, right? It is typically somewhere around 20% to 40% of white America on social issues of inclusion fall to the right side. Now, that may not seem like a big number, but the truth is if I were sitting here today talking about how 20 to 40% of Black America was joining the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers, we would all acknowledge that that is a significant number.
Yeah.
The truth is we have the multiracial coalition to move forward. but it has to be empowered. And the truth is that the Democratic Party has walked away, and has put more time in consolidating its relationship with the elites in this country than those who aspire to live in a better, safer, more vibrant America. The playbook is there.
Yeah.
The question is will the Democratic Party stand up? But there's another piece here, Tavis, that I think the film really makes clear, which is it's not just about competing parties. It's also about a government actually centering and serving the people. The FCC and its unwillingness to rein in fear scammers who have taken this to broad-based media platforms have allowed this type of bigotry to seed and spread in this country. We have government institutions that step up and protect democracy.
No, I hear you, and couldn't agree more. Our guests are Andrew Goldberg and Eric Ward. Their documentary is called White with Fear. More of this conversation when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro. Post jobs today, talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ziprecruiter.com/free to try it for free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free.
He's a paradigm pioneer and the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
My time is tight. Andrew, you want to get some of that question about whether or not Democrats stand a chance of ever again winning the white vote in this country, given these disaffected white voters?
Well, I mean, look, I'm not a political strategist. I'm a reporter, but
sure.
And I've always been a reporter on this, on this stuff. I've never sort of been in the guessing game, but I can tell you that, I think that what white voters are buying and what Republicans are selling is a very good match, and that's a tough nut to crack. That being said, the Republican strategy, at least the first time around with Trump, was to bring out a whole lot of new white voters because they realized that they couldn't get voters of color. Now, they've managed to get more voters of color for all sorts of strange reasons. The second time Trump ran, or the third time Trump ran, this most recent time.
Yep.
But there are an enormous amount of white voters out there who aren't coming to the polls. And so, I think that the solution for either party is to unlock what's going to bring them out there. And in that sense, there are just huge numbers. I mean, if either party could get, just a small number of the white voters that are sitting at home and don't vote, they'd sweep the elections. And that's the problem, is that we have such a disengaged voting base in this country. Now, that's a challenge for the next, next generation, or certainly the next few elections, something beyond where I'm at. But I will say that it is extremely seductive to the white voters that I know, what the Republicans are selling. I mean, I watch my friends. I have some friends who are deeply entrenched in the MAGA camp, and some friends who are deeply entrenched in the left camp. And I watch my friends in the MAGA camp respond to this stuff like catnip. I mean, it is not something that I see any other political trigger point for anybody.
Yeah. The
way I see right-wing voters respond to the Trump messaging. That's a new one. I have not seen that in my lifetime. When Clinton was running and when Obama was running, I never saw anybody almost get cultish and rabid the way these right-wing white voters that I know do around the Trump messaging.
No.
That is a scary thing.
It is scary. And to your point, and I want to raise this when we come forward in our remaining moments with Andrew Goldberg and Eric Ward, the point that Andrew makes just now leads me to ask whether or not now is the best time or the worst time to be releasing a documentary called White with Fear. Is it the best time or the worst time? I can argue it either way. I don't need to argue it either way. Obviously, I know their answer. They think it's the best time. But what Andrew just teed up, these white folk ain't trying to hear this. They ain't trying to hear about no White with Fear right about now. So we'll talk about that in our remaining moments. By the way, White with Fear is streaming on Amazon and Apple. Our remaining moments with the filmmakers when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for. For this free information, call 800-433-8909. 800-433-8909. That's 800-433-8909. Or simply visit godra.com.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
I've got 3 minutes left with Andrew Goldberg and Eric Ward, the filmmakers behind White with Fear. Andrew, you went there, so I'm following you. I've never seen anything like it myself, so it's now the best time or the worst time for a documentary like White with Fear.
Look, I mean, a lot of people, if you try and talk to someone who's in a cult, if you try and explain to them why they're being manipulated, they're just going to look at you as if you're betraying them. And I think a lot of people right now see this film and think to themselves, oh my God, I'm being manipulated. And a lot of people see this film and think, how is this possible? This can't even be true. So I'm not really sure what the answer is. Since it's my film, of course, I'm going to tell you that it's the best time
there you go.
to release this film right now. And let me just quickly say,
sure.
It drops on Amazon and Apple and all those places tomorrow.
Yes.
So I hope people will look at it. I'll bet Eric's got an answer for this, though. I'd be interested to hear what he thinks.
So would I, Eric.
It's a tough time to tell this story, but it is the important time to tell this story. And I hope people will share it with folks who need to see it, not just the choir, folks on the fence, the ones who are feeling fear but haven't been told that belonging is possible. But here's the deal. In the end, this isn't just a film about others. It's a film about us and what we're building, what we're protecting, and whether we have the courage to stand up when fear comes knocking. White with Fear, I think, shows us what's at stake. But the response is more important. And the response, that's up to the rest of us.
Yeah. Are we up to the task, Eric?
We are up to the task. Black folks in this country have continued to bring this country forward with allies, with white, Latino, Native American, Asian women, straight, gay, of multi-religions. This is a country that does seek to be more. And we know how to get there. And we know what backlash looks like. The truth is at the end of the day, our ancestors did not suffer what they suffered to put us in this moment, to fall on our knees. We're going to move forward and we're going to recognize we're here, not because of things we did wrong. We are in this political moment because of the things that were done right, and we're going to continue to do those right things.
I saw this film as a reckoning. It is a reckoning, and it's a powerful piece of work, and I am honored to have had Andrew Goldberg and Eric Ward on this program for this hour to talk about their new project. It's called White with Fear, streaming tomorrow, June 3rd, on Amazon and Apple, a number of places that you can check it out. But I have seen it, and I encourage you to see it. You will not be disappointed in the story they tell in this amazing new piece of work called White with Fear. Andrew, you're done good, man. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Amazing piece of work, Eric. Thank you for your time and your witness. I appreciate you, sir.
Appreciate you, too.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Illinois governor helps working families more than Trump-era federal cuts. 11 people were stabbed Sunday night at the Union Gospel Mission in Salem, Oregon. Police say the victims were taken